In my first film, The Art of the Artist Known as A34, I examined the relationship between the artist and the audience, the viewer, in the context of an artist exhibiting outside the gallery. My name is Francis Bookwood, and I'm a writer and critic from Oxfordshire. A characteristic of human life is the exchange. We trade items of value. We share stories, wisdom and gossip. We make deals and bargains, sometimes for gain, sometimes for value, sometimes for protection. We even assert our strengths in order to gain dominance and power over others who are weaker. In the context of the visual arts, we might trace that exchange back to the earliest cave paintings. Activity that said, I was here, and in some examples, this is what I did today. A snapshot, if you will, of human life, but also a documentation of a moment. The effort required to create this type of art was free of trade or value. It was simply the energy of a human's emotions translated into mark-making on a surface. It may not have been intended as a focus for other humans to gather round, and certainly no one had to exchange anything in order to see it. Indeed, no one may even have been expected or invited to see it. The visual world of early humans would have centred around their surroundings, the friendliness or danger of plants and other animals, the weather, the day and the night, and whether there was anything safe to eat or drink. Fast forward to today, and it seems as though everything has a place and a price. Signs and symbols made by humans clutter our urban environments, overloading our senses and simultaneously being characteristic of the presence of other humans. You often have to travel far to find a genuine wilderness like this, with no sight nor sound of humans, where your senses can experience the same sensations of the planet as our ancient ancestors. But back in the present, and within the chaos of modern life, and within the context of visual art, we are expected to know what art is, in contrast to things that are not art. If you are unsure of what art is, there is one place which you can start. The gallery.
The Cornerstone Arts Centre in Didcot, South Oxfordshire, was the first gallery to formally exhibit the work of Oxford artist A34.
For an artist who loves to display outside, on plein air, placing their artworks at the mercy of the elements, the public's nonchalance, and the potential of destruction, to choose to come into a gallery, a space which legitimizes art, seems to be something of a change of heart for the artist known as A34.
The gallery is a space which legitimizes art. Its very structure is an empty space, with bare walls, without function, until objects are placed within it, which then become art.
And for the audience, themselves non-deterministic in their unpredictability, the gallery is a place where they enter into a relationship with art. They willingly enter into a building where they will be challenged, inspired, moved by artwork.
This seems to me greatly at odds with the surprise nature of A34's work, and I'm challenged somewhat by the notion that they should attempt to be legitimized in this way, to take upon the mantle of the establishment.
To have an exhibition is to say, I am an artist, but with the help of the building, the art world, the public. I'm reminded of the Zen koan, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it make a sound? Perhaps if the exhibition is staged but no one visits, is it art?
There's a sense, with some of these works on display, that they've been designed with the gallery in mind.
Previous works of A34 exhibited outside have had to be weatherproof, toughened against the elements, perhaps made more rambunctious in order to catch the passers-by's eyes. There are elements in these works where the use of plastic lettering tape, itself a font of zero importance, purely information, no personality, has been scaled up in some format.
Of course, it makes it easier to read, but it loses the tactile, utilitarian qualities of the original tape format. One has to wonder if the original attitude and intention is somewhat lost in this new translation. There is a sense, for example, that these artworks would not exist outside, exposed to the elements, where the rain may wash away the lurid inks. They would not survive long enough, perhaps, to even be recognised as art. What is so special about the embossed tape, if the embossed tape is not being used and only mimicked?
Has A34 abandoned the art of the exterior, the art of challenge, the art of surprise?
Did the gallery create an opportunity for new work that couldn't exist previously? Or has the gallery gone to the head of A34 and inspired more conventional artistic activity? The absurdity and the satire of their previous works is still apparent, but the more mainstream format of the artworks, including their display, hanging on the wall, could be disappointing to some. It is evidence of a legitimacy and a conventionality that is at odds with the anarchic, anonymous street artist. And by entering into a building that legitimizes art, there is none of the challenging, anarchic spirit of the exterior works. We're here instead with pieces herded into the gallery like battery artifacts, instead of free-range ideas. Some of the pieces that were previously subjected to the elements, the vandalism of the public, and the ignorance of the refuse collectors are now, ironically, protected by being displayed safely inside vitrines.
Even the act of attending a gallery by an individual sets themselves up mentally to become receptive or hostile towards works of art. And in fact, how many people visit a gallery with the intention of seeing art anyway, and instead merely wish to surf upon its carapace of cultural acceptance? Haven't we all perhaps taken somebody on a first date to a gallery and gazed at the artworks, perhaps looking through them whilst trying to take one's mind off the slender ankles of one's companion? The gallery is, of course, a meeting place not only between the viewer and the artist, but the meeting place between ideas, between personalities, between people.
It is people, normally the missing ingredient in the exterior works of A34, that are the focus of perhaps the most conventional of the gallery-focused artworks. A large series of photographs capturing activity by non-artists outside the gallery but brought inside the gallery are transformed into art. In these artworks, people are caught mid-air, jumping or indulging in exuberant activities, or just commemorating an encounter with an artist.
There's a particular exchange being captured here. All of these people have ostensibly met the artist known as A34. But were they aware they were meeting the artist known as A34? We know from previous meet the artist moments that they only appear in disguise, a masked figure with sunglasses. I myself can't be certain that this number of people would trust a masked figure with glasses to take their photograph and then display it in a gallery. There's a sense here then that we have a witness record of something that every other visitor to the gallery is denied, including me.
An interesting subversion of paintings in a gallery is displayed. A long piece bringing the outside in and toying with double yellow lines, mimicking an electrocardiogram. Here, Artistic technique is used to render what might be difficult to achieve outside, unless you were prepared to really pay a gang of street workers a significant amount of money to ultimately vandalise a highway. But again, I'm wondering if this isn't all too easily a concession to the conventionality of the gallery. Is the radical artist enjoying being part of the establishment by playing safe with the format? Whilst the gallery frees space in the mind of the audience to accept the possibility of abstract, non-figurative works of art, it is a cloistered, almost claustrophobic arena compared to the boundlessness of the outside world. In particular, there is one artwork consisting of plaster of Paris hands cast from rubber gloves. Had it been intended for the exterior, I'd suggest each hand would have been scattered across Oxford, and perhaps even further afield, appearing randomly and out of context across the city. Instead, inside the gallery, they are clustered together as a single sculpture, a single statement. It's almost the reverse of the plastic lettering paintings that don't scale up successfully. In the case of these rubber gloves and these individual hands, they don't seem to cluster together in a meaningful sense as successfully as if they had been scattered and separated across a much bigger area. We can also see a miniature rendering of the original Didcot road sign interventions. Whilst this is evidence of impeccable artistic talent, albeit on the scale of a model railway, being based on a roundabout, it has a peculiar circularity, a sense of an artistic idea chasing its own tail. It's rarely a happy review which struggles to say something nice about an exhibition, and I was glad, therefore, to find a favourite artwork amongst this smorgasbord of ideas. This tiny fire bucket in the corner of the gallery is almost overlooked, and yet it is perhaps for me the most successful blend of the exterior work of A34 and the gallery. It seems to be a return to the placing of objects in order to satirise and circumvent a place with an existing purpose. This is almost a perfect version of his exterior interventions being brought inside. Both the scale of the work and its subject matter are satirised and critiqued by the artwork itself. An object that you wouldn't find out of place in a gallery or in the interior of any public building visually triggers a sense of safety and responsibility, and yet clearly rendered too tiny to be of any use, really does the job of baffling the viewer whilst leaving them chuckling.
Of course, I'm aware that a review of an exhibition which closed over 6 weeks ago is scarcely going to invite anybody back into a gallery. But of course, critical appreciation and aesthetic inquiry are important parts of the dialogue in the arts. The artist, whether they exhibit alone, outside the gallery system out in the street, or in partnership with an existing system, undertakes an exchange with the public. It is the concept, the human concept of the exchange, as discussed at the start of this film. They must expect, in return for the privilege of exhibition, to hear the expression of the feelings of the viewer. And if you have got this far in this film, you have just heard mine.